Welcome to the Champions of Active Women podcast. In this podcast, we will interview individuals who have been successful within athletics and beyond. We hope that these interviews will encourage and inspire girls and women to be active for a lifetime, to reach their goals, and to break new barriers in sport and life. This podcast is brought to you by the Active Women's Health Initiative and the Sports Medicine Research Institute at the University of Kentucky. The mission of the Active Women's Health Initiative is to optimize health and promote physical activity and wellness for girls and women across the lifespan. We hope you enjoy our conversations and join us in understanding women's health today to ensure women's health tomorrow. Hi, I'm Dee Degonsky, your host of the Champions of Active Women podcast. Today, we have a very special episode for you as I talk with two active women, Narmada and Uma Nanjundan. Narmada and Uma are sisters who share a love of being active in the outdoors and have traveled the world as they journeyed through climbs on 3 of Earth's 7 highest peaks together. In 2015, Uma and Narmada hiked to Everest Base Camp and have set their sights on an Everest summit attempt in 2022. In their professional lives, Narmada works as the Director of Risk for East Kentucky Power Cooperative in Winchester, Kentucky, and Uma works as a Senior Natural Gas Trader for South Jersey Industries in Hammonton, New Jersey. They will be joining us on Skype today. So without further ado, welcome, ladies, and thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Dee, for having us today, and I'm excited to be part of this Active Women Initiative. Uma, you want to say something?
Yes, it's fun. It's great to see you do this.
Well,
yeah, I'm glad to do this. So I guess it's important for women to have an active lifestyle. Very important part of being healthy and also active.
Well, and I appreciate you joining me to share your stories today. So to get us started with our conversation, both of you are outdoor enthusiasts. Could you talk a little bit about when and how that love of the outdoors started?
Well, who wants to go first? I guess I'll try to go first. I actually am an asthmatic as a child. So my outdoor thing was very limited when I was growing up. You know, I actually grew up in India, so actually Uma can speak for herself. But so really play was not as encouraged as much as studying. So I was a bookworm for most of my life. And the only activity was like I had to walk to school 3 miles every day. And I would play cricket with my brother. So that was the amount of physical activity. And actually it didn't start until I was in my 20s that we started tennis. So we'd go register for tennis classes at the YMCA and play tennis. Actually, Uma and I both used to play tennis. And then we got into aerobics, and that got us interested into, being a little bit more active. And then on, I actually moved to the United States when I was 26. And it's really my brother who went to University of Arizona, Tucson, and he had a good friend who was German, and they used to backpack quite a bit in the Grand Canyon. So my brother was like, I think I'd just come in. It was maybe 3 months I was in the country, and he's like, do you want to go backpacking? I was like, yay. I didn't even know what it was. So I just signed up. Hey, let's go. And I absolutely loved it. It was my first love, and it was Yellowstone National Park. You can't ask for a better thing than that.
Yeah, what a great first experience.
So I totally enjoyed it, and I was like, yay, this is the thing. I'm going to just start doing this more and more. And so I think Uma, you want to talk about your experience? I
think for me, it's I don't think when my brother started taking us out, I actually didn't like it as much first, but I think it was in 2000, it's actually when our brother stopped backpacking with us. I think it was 2000 or 2001, I can't remember. But Narmada and I decided to go to Grand Canyon along with that same German friend. And we went to the Grand Canyon, and it was amazing. I think, you go to this world where there's no phone calls. I mean, you're just nothing, right? You're just completely checked out, and you're in the elements. You have to survive. No water. You have to think of everything. I think when you come back from such a trip, you completely forget, the world. I think having that, I think that was really amazing, and just the views in the Grand Canyon, you could never beat that. So
I guess we made it our family tradition. So we've been to the Grand Canyon since 1999 to 2009. We've just done every trail on the Grand Canyon. It was a Christmas tradition or a Thanksgiving. And I used to go to the Grand Canyon every year because we loved it. We didn't know anything better. That was like our love of nature, I would say. So it was that, and that kind of really built us. I think we started with that. We actually, I think it was 2000, as Uma was saying, that when my brother got married, we didn't have company. And those are the days not of the internet where you can look up people and say, hey, would you come backpacking? So we just a Sierra Club, and all we wanted to do was backpack. And so we used to do something called as the Death March, you remember, back in every December, so every Christmas. So either we would be, so it'd be November Thanksgiving was Grand Canyon, and Christmas we would go to the Appalachian Trail, and we kind of did what, about
70, 80 miles in about 5 to 6 days.
And so just did about 400 miles of section hiking on the AT. So I think that kind of kept us into the active world. Of course, you know, we used to have a personal trainer so we can get more fitter, because it's funny, until we grew, you know, unlike most people who grew up with being active when they're younger, it's the reverse. Us. We really started getting active, I think, more in our late 20s, yeah, like
I would say 30s.
So it's constantly, and I think that has really helped us keep healthy as we you know, progress through our life, outdoor life and our life itself.
Yeah. So can you talk about what that process was like, you know, going from, you know, not having a super active childhood to then deciding you were to take on these pretty big hiking feats. And obviously you have to be in great physical condition to do that. So what were some of the challenges you experienced in that process?
I think it's kind of like, even I remember like when we first started becoming active, and we found a biking group, and Narmada would drive. She, you know, if you meet Narmada, nobody would guess that she's a very active person. In fact, I think when we were in Kilimanjaro, our guide looked at her and he said, "Oh, she's going to hike?" I'm like, "Talk." I said, "After one day, you tell me what you think." And he was like, "Oh my God." Like, he couldn't believe it, because she's tiny. She doesn't look athletic, but she is kick-ass. That's all I can say. She just goes with it and she's gone. Like, I don't think people underestimate what she's capable of. And she has the will like nobody else has. So well, I think that's something, I'm kind of the opposite of her. Like, I try, but I think I can give up a lot more easily. Narmada does not give up. And so I think for us, it's more like incremental steps of like, but it's working really hard. I think when you start in your 30s versus when you start in your 15, you have to work, I think, twice as hard to really, you know, get there, you know, just be active and everything. It's definitely hard. It's not easy.
Well, I think on the comment that you made about, you know, looking athletic, I think a lot of people are intimidated. They just don't want to get, so biking. Uma and I were, most of the time, we were the only two females backpacking with a bunch of guys. We were the only two females with a bunch of long-distance bikers. I think people are just intimidated because they think you got to look a certain way. You have to be looking like super fit. But you know what? I think it's your drive. If you are really a driven person, I think you'll just go do it, right? Or you need a motivation to do it. So I think, you know, I think the stereotype kind of, you know, holds people back. I think that's the right way to say it. I think you just go do it and say, you know, if you love that, you know, as things that they love. Like, I think we started biking quite a bit because we wanted to be super active. So when we were in our 30s, we did a couple of hilly hundreds. We've used to the My Kentucky home ride. So we've done a couple of long 100-mile bike rides. And it was fun. It was, we enjoyed it. We would do after work because we had a very busy work life too. It's that balance. It's hard, but you know, I think I say this to people. I say, if it's your priority, you will make time for it. Right. So I think if being active is your priority, then you kind of make time for it. And that's that's what we've been doing, is like trying to find time to kind of find activities that we can do. Anything.
So what do you think allows you to kind of ignore that stereotype, to not worry about the fact that you're the only two women, or that you maybe think that you don't look as athletic as other people? I mean, what do you think allows you to keep being active and just ignore those stereotypes?
I just think actually I think it's maybe comes with age. I think Narmada has always been that way. She never has cared for anybody. I am the opposite. I do care. But I think at some point in time, so I think, again, it goes back to, the year 2000 and 2001, when we came back from the Grand Canyon trip, and we went to this friend had called us to a New Year's party. And when we went there, everybody was doing something. Like, you meet these people that were flying, they're all climbing. And so after Narmada and I came back from the trip, we said, like, what are we waiting, sign from God or for what? So I think we want to say, okay, we tried, right? So I think as soon as we came, literally it was January 1st, Narmada signed up to pilot school to start to train to be a pilot. And I signed up, looked up a rock climbing gym, and found a guide and started climbing Climb Time here. So I think it's just, at some point in time, it snaps in your head and you're like, I don't care about anything. So I'll give you an example. Like, I remember a couple of years ago, we were looking to buy windows, and the window salesman said to me, oh, I can't talk to you until your Mr. Significant Other, your husband, is there. I said, keep waiting, he said.
Well,
you got to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it takes us, I think it's personalities. I mean, a lot of people do care what other people think. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong. It's just so I'm a marathon runner too. And I don't run with people. I just run by myself. I think some people maybe are built that way, is how I can think of it. But I think you can program yourself to do it. I don't think you're born with it. I think to me, it seems like if you feel it's a priority, then just go do it, right? I mean, if it's not your priority, I think you just don't do it. And so I think for us, being active is very, very important.
So together, you've climbed some of Earth's 7 summits, which is an awesome feat in and of itself. The highest peaks on 7 of the continents, and you've been to 3 of them. You've climbed 3 of those peaks. So this takes a ton of training and dedication, it's in time. Can you talk a little bit about what made you decide to take on that challenge?
Oh boy, this is I give the credit all to Narmada, because I think I remember it was 1 November, and we had done all the Grand Canyon backpacking trails, and now we were left with some really, like, what we call as goat trails. And so we were kind of deciding what did we want to do that November. And I remember sitting in my office at Duke Energy and Googling for what do we want to do. And I called Narmada and I said, hey, believe it or not, Kilimanjaro is on sale, so we can go to Kilimanjaro. And so it was November 2009. I think November 2009. It was probably November 2nd, we decided. And November 27th or 28th, we were on the slopes of Kilimanjaro. Did not think anything about it. We were thinking we were going on a hiking trip. How hard could this be? So I think that sums our attitude towards things.
Yeah, I love that attitude. Just go do it. You wanted to do it, so you went and did it.
Yeah, we said just go do it, right? I mean, it was my 40th birthday too, and I guess back in my mind, I've always wanted to climb Everest. Like, I don't know what it is. Don't ask me. I know some people have said, why do you climb it? Because it's there. That's not the reason for me. For me, it's, I don't know, as a kid, maybe it was the proximity to India. I've always thought of Everest as the place to be. But I knew I couldn't just get to Everest. I need to work my way through. And so I knew people always told me Kilimanjaro is number 1. But I think I was too proud of myself. Like, I thought, well, you can run 26 miles. We backpack 20 miles, in one day. Like, how hard can it be? And it's like, I think, I learned to respect the mountain after I went to Kilimanjaro. I mean, I realized high altitude mountains versus taking a backpack and going 20 some odd miles is two different things. And that's why I have my sister. I call her Sanity and I'm the insanity because, well, I decide, well, hey, we're going to climb Aconcagua. And she's like, do you know what it takes to climb Aconcagua? I'm like, no, but I'll find a guide. I'll do everything. And so it's funny, I wanted to share the story in Aconcagua. So I think it was January 1st of 2014. I told my sister, look, we finished Kilimanjaro. It's been a couple of years. I need to get to Aconcagua. It's 23,000 feet. We're going to do it this year, just Christmas. I just set a deadline. And she's like, she comes back and she does the research, right? So I like her because she's she's like the sane person and I'm the insane person. So I said, well, she's like, do you know what it takes to climb Aconcagua? I said, I don't know. And so she actually researched and found this hypoxic tent, it's called. It's a hypoxic machine. So she Googled, she's, pretty good at research. So she called the company and she found out and she said, well, we'll at least need this one because we're going to 23,000 feet and we're here at sea level. We're not going to magically being able to go up there because Kilimanjaro challenges for us too. It's, let's not forget that. Like it was hard getting up there at 19,000 feet, because the air, the oxygen levels are different. And if you don't care for it, you could get really sick. So with Aconcagua, I give Uma credit. And then this is a funny story. Not many people think about this unless you're an astronaut. Going to the restroom, basic necessity is hard. And she's like, do you know what people do? Uma, you want to share? What to say?
I mean, I think you have to think one of the things that the mountain has, and I think it's a good thing, is basically, pack out, right? So basically anything you get in, you have to go out. So if that means you poop, it's getting out. So you have to carry it. So you have to think about how do you do your business, like, or when you're in high altitude, you have to pee every 2 to 3 hours. As a woman, that's extremely challenging because it's completely exposed.
And it's all male. There's no females.
There's no females.
Yeah. So when the expedition that we were in Aconcagua, we were the only 2 females among 10 men. And 10 climbers. 10 climbers. And then the guides were all males.
No.
One guide who was female. So think about peeing. Like you literally, you don't have a restroom to run to. So and the mountain is just a goat trail. So you can't just go like hide somewhere. So, you have to do things very differently, right? And then you want to talk about how you discovered how we do our basic necessities.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's no secret people use the pee bottle. So we're like, okay, that's a solution, like to water, but at the same time to be able, I think even to poop, like you're like, okay, I have to carry it. Like, what do you do? How do you carry it? Like, okay, take the newspaper. I mean, things like that you really think about that you don't think about.
And people think climbing is so sexy. They don't talk about these basic things. It's like being an astronaut is so awesome, but an astronaut has to struggle with these basic things, right? So I give Uma credit for it because she does all the research and I just show up to the party.
Well, I think it sounds like you two are an amazing team and kind of complement each other well when you're going after these big challenges. Did you make a conscious decision to do them all together, or has that just kind of been the way things are over time?
I think we've always been like kind of sporadic. The only reason we can't be too sporadic with these mountains is you really have to train for them. But I think it's more like, okay, what maybe is the next thing to do really in terms of difficulty and in terms of doability and all that?
Well, I think in terms of like doing together, like we both do it together. Well, actually, I think the reason we both do it.
The only reason I do it is really the one honest answer is because I want to make sure nothing happens to Narmada. That is the reason I do it. Mountaineering to me is suffering. Like it is suffering. If anybody tells you otherwise, it's not true. It's suffering because you're suffering to take.
But the views are fantastic.
But yes, you cannot get the views anywhere but there. But it's suffering. I mean, it's suffering, right? You're like,
because your
eating,
body
drinking,
is your body is your body is using so much energy. So we take in at least 5,000 calories a day, but your body is just using so much energy that literally you lose a couple of pounds. I mean, it's the best weight loss program there is, I would say. So we get up the mountain, and then next thing you know, we're a couple of sizes down. But I think the one thing is, I don't think, like, so when we were in Aconcagua, we were above all the clouds, you can see forever. You're like almost close to, you feel like you can touch the sky, it's like, and the views, even if you pay $1 million, you can't get a helicopter up there, but you have to use your own 2 feet. And I think it teaches you leadership skills. It teaches you how to work with people. It teaches you organization, because think food, water, shelter, we had to put our own tents on. We had to, we had a guide. We had it's an expedition, so there's a guide. But a lot of other things, coordinating with other climbers, there's a lot that goes in. I think it builds you character and resilience, I would say. That's really what, and of course, the big benefit you get is the beautiful views and the peace of mind that you get just watching sunrises, sunsets. They're just amazing. That's all I could say.
What if anything has it done to your relationship with each other?
Ooh. I think I'm not quite as competitive as Narmada is, so maybe I like to accommodate her to the extent that I can. Because again, now climbing mountain is Narmada's passion, other than one more she has, which is she wants to make sure she runs the Boston Marathon in her 60s. So that's another one that is in back of her mind. For me, it's rock climbing. I really enjoy rock climbing a lot. It's fun. It's one of those things like it's solving a puzzle. It's like, it's to me that I enjoy more than I do really mountaineering. But I mean, it's fun. Like, if you can do it, why not, right? Why not? Because how many people do it?
Not many.
Like, when we went recently in the cruise ship, we did this thing called Ripcord, which is basically like skydiving. And Narmada signed us up when we were there and doing this, and, we had fun, right? So, there are 4,000 people in the ship and maybe 20 people who did it.
So I think, for us taking a challenge on, even though we may not be able to do it, but that shouldn't prevent us from doing it. We just have to try it. I mean, just trying it is a big deal, right? It's better than, just sitting on the couch. So to me, don't be afraid. Just go out there and do it. Mm-hmm. I think it's a Nike slogan, right?
Yeah.
Do it.
I think that's why it's been so powerful, right? Because it makes a lot of sense to people.
Right.
So as you look forward to your Everest climb in a few years, how and what kinds of things are you doing to prepare?
Oh gosh, yeah. So that's I read quite a bit now about Everest, only because it's probably one of the most toughest mountain I will ever climb. And so for me, I have decided I just don't need to be fit, but I need to be Everest fit, which is a very different definition. So for me, as a result, I have decided I am going to, I do work out quite a bit already. So I just need to be more regimented. And I hired a coach who can kind of help me, guide me through like specific core training. You have to build a lot of your back, your shoulder, the instability, and a lot of upper body strength, and of course, even your legs. So targeting your workouts that way is one way. And of course, cardiovascular, right? So I run 1 marathon and a half marathon every year. So that kind of helps your cardiovascular. And then a couple of trainings. So I'm planning to go out to Colorado, Pikes Peak, kind of do more training on the glacier. They don't have glaciers, but on snow, which is like the traverse climbing, and better use of your ice axe and crampons and rescue. So that's what my goal is between now and then, kind of get better at those skill sets and then try to go up to Camp 3 first. Everest has, camp 1 to 4. So you can get to Camp 3 fairly safely. So that'll kind of give you
getting to Camp 3 is probably the most unsafe because there's base camp and advanced base camp. Advanced base camp you have to go through Kumbai's Falls, and that is probably
so it is challenging. I'm not saying there's no challenges. Without challenges, there's nothing to achieve, right? Then everybody would be climbing it. So to me, it's okay. Yes, I'm a risk manager. I do risk management for a living. When I say I do risk management, people laugh at me because they're like, well, then why are you in this climbing thing? And I say, you know what? This whole climbing thing is risk management because guess what? Everything has its own risk. You're driving a car, you have risks there too. So when you're climbing a mountain, we hire the best guide, we have the best gear, we have everything that we need for the climb to make it a successful climb. Now you can calculate all the risks, but some show up. You can't solve everything, but at least you're prepared for those risks. And I think that in your profession, that's what my professional career has taught me is like, well, yes, there is risks, as Uma said, you climb Kumbai's Fall, but you go with the best guide. That's why I'm starting to train harder. Right. I think I'm going to start rock climbing here with Uma soon so that way I can also get some of the skills because she knows how to handle ropes. I don't. I mean, I'm more just a hiker, a backpacker, runner, or whatever it is that you want to say. But to me, it's like developing that next set of skills so I know I'm safe, right? And I don't want to put my life at risk and also my guide's life at risk, right? I mean, it's very important for everybody to come back safe. And the most important thing, I've learned this from every mountain. The mountain's always going to be there. The question is whether you're going to be there, right? So to me, if it's a bad day, like, you can't if it's going to be bad weather or whatever it is, don't turn back. Turn back. Summit is just a point. The journey to the summit is more important than the summit itself. There are lots of climbers that have climbed up, they've gotten within 100 meters from the summit and decided to turn back. And they could have always said, hey, it's 100 meters, let's just do it. But that's not the point, right? The point is let's come home safely because that 100 meters can cost you your life. And that, and also being...
Well, and that story is not, who has watched the Everest movie knows about Rob, the New Zealand guide, who really took the guide, the U.S. Postal Service man who was there and died there. And he was the best climber there is, right? So I think you have to respect your guide because you have to respect their life. And it's just because they do it for a living doesn't mean that you have to go to the mountain at any cost. I think it's a somber reminder of that, right? So,
and to respect the mountain, I think you said that earlier that you're not in control of some things there.
Yes, it doesn't matter whether it's Everest or it's Kilimanjaro. It's any of the mountains. Take even Mount Shasta here in the United States. It's not the mountain. The mountain has its own weather system, so you have to learn to respect the mountain. You can't just say, I'm going to climb it. I don't care. I mean, that attitude can get you in trouble. And instead be more humble and say, if the mountain lets you climb it, go for it, right? Otherwise, respect the mountain and, make your way down safely. Because as I don't know if somebody said it or I said it, I don't know. The mountain's always going to be there. The question is whether you're going to be there, to see it again. So that's how I view it. And I think a lot goes to Uma, who tries to keep me safe. And I have to think about my family because I don't want this to be such a negative experience because, the nice thing is while Uma and I are outdoorsy, now I see my niece who is 21 and she's starting to she just finished her first high altitude climb at Pikes Peak. She's 21. Right. So I want this younger generation to step in. We're going to the Grand Canyon here again in December. And we're taking my 14-year-old nephew with us too. And see, these are the next generation that are going to keep our mountains alive for us, our national parks alive for us. And I think it's important now for us to transition this love for the nature, the outdoors, to the younger generation so they can actually carry this forward. It's absolutely important to keep this tradition going, in at least in my.
It's more like to keep the nature out for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I love your perspective on kind of if it's your priority, if it's something you want to do, just go out there and do it. And you've given lots of examples of that. So what other advice do you have for girls or women who are trying to be active and trying to be as healthy as they can be and through that be active?
Well, I think, it's so in, I think for especially as a female, right, you always have to think, right? You have to think like, okay, when girls are, young girls or women want to do it, we always have a lot of doubts in our mind, right? Can we do this? How will I do this? Do I have enough money and all that? So I think as a woman, yes, what we have to think about safety, definitely, because we just, obviously we have to be careful. But I think it comes with confidence of doing things in increments, for sure. I mean, again, as I said, like, don't wait for a man to show up, right? I mean, it's interesting these days when we travel, we see a lot of young girls who come and travel by themselves. And I'm like, yay to them, because yes, you're doing it, right? So you just, and I think especially in the age of YouTube and Google, you can look at resources and learn, like simple things as like learning how to wear your shoes so that it doesn't untie, because tying and untying shoes in the mountain is pretty hard. So, you have to, simple things like that. I remember looking it up last time when we climbed it. I said, okay, we need to wear a surgeon's knot, or like we need to wear it in such a way that you don't have to keep untying this knot. So I think it's I think those are pretty doable. And, again, I think staying healthy, working out is more for not necessarily for your heart also, but for your brain. I mean, research has shown that, right, when people go out in nature for even 15 cells, it actually helps your T cells. So I think it's kind of important. And I think all of us agree, like when we go outside and come in a nice sunny day, we feel really good about walking, walking outside. I think as human beings, that innate nature of like being out in nature is one of those things that has been part of our life. So, and I think I have this, I recently heard a podcast, but so I'm going to borrow this from him. I'll say like, be your own unique snowflake,
Yeah. I guess I'll have to say the same thing. I think I think again, like I go back to the stereotype. It's like, I think we all have to think we are our own unique self. We don't have to compare ourselves we don't have to compete with somebody else. We have to compete with ourselves, right? It's not about getting better than X, this person. It's like okay, last time I did this, I want to do better than this. I think just having that goal and making it a priority to be physically active, not just because, not just because it makes you look good. That's a great side effect. But I think it comes with a lot of the mental aspect of it, having more peace of mind. And I think there's a lot said to just going out and walking in the park and coming back home. You just feel so relaxed. I think the more we can do that, I think it will be helpful. Just don't wait around for anybody. Just do it.
Yeah,
just
and
do it.
It's kind of goes to like, if you look at the younger generation today, how many of them are depressed? How many of them have poor self-esteem and stuff like that? Just when you can do some of this yourself, it's going to build your own self. It's going to build yourself. And you're like, oh, I can do this. Oh, you know what? I can do this. So I think every small thing builds confidence in you. And I think this is one of the things I always say, and I tell Narmada this. One of my favorite heroes is Amundsen, the guy. I don't know if people know who knows Amundsen, but Amundsen is the guy who actually reached the South Pole first. And Captain Scott had everything. He died within miles of his stash of food, but Amundsen, a Norwegian, made it. And he said one thing, which is adventure happens to people who are not prepared. So I always take that into heart. Like, you want an adventure, like adventures are like not good, that's something I always think about. Like, if there's aspects you can plan, you want to plan, and you really have to train. So whether that means, like, I remember any time before we go on big altitude climbs, we wear all our gear and see whether it fits. Can we, like the last one, we were practicing unclipping our carabiners with our gloves. So to try it there, because your mind is not going to be able to do it. So.
And the most important thing is, like, you're wearing these heavy gloves. You can barely walk. You can barely hold an ice axe on it. So now it's dark. You're climbing, and you're supposed to hold the ice axe, and so you kind of have to practice. I'd say practice really makes things better, like practicing with your gear, practicing with whatever sport you're doing, right? The more you practice, the better you get.
There's a lot of truth to it.
Thank you. Is there anything else you'd like to share with our audience today?
I think, again, I would say just do it. Don't wait for someone to show up at your door. Just go do it.
And I always think of, it sounds cliche, but what they say is, what do you want your epitaphs to say, And for me, it's, I tried, so I think that's the attitude we need to go with. And, and I think it's a great age to be a human being, there's so much possibilities. You have great equipment. You have you can stay safe. I mean, it's not like the times when Hillary climbed Everest, right? So I think we are very lucky to be in a good time, with a lot of resources. So I think it's more like, can we do it? Can we give up our modern comforts and do it? Be outside and do this thing. And I think, what you see younger people go this way, right? Today, people want to do stuff with their hands. And I think that makes you feel a sense of purpose, that you actually built it or you did something with your hands, and builds confidence again. Comes back to the same thing of building confidence.
Mm-hmm. I'd imagine after you climb, journey to the top or near the top of any of these mountains, after you go through that journey, that you have to come back just feeling an amazing sense of accomplishment. Is that accurate?
Actually, it's interesting you brought this up. So this is I got to share a little something with you. So Aconcagua was my highest mountain in terms of altitude that I climbed, and it took 1 year to prepare for the mountain. 1 year of nonstop working out. In fact, Uma would be like, we never get a break. We're always working out. And the minute we came back, it was New Year's. It was New Year's Eve. We came back home, and I just felt like everything has been taken away from my life. I had a loss, because you sense a purpose to reach the mountain, right? And then you come back and you're like, what am I going to do next? So you lose, and I felt very depressed, actually. I was surprised. So I talked to my friend, Joanne, who is, she actually teaches young kids, and she used to be a trainer for Olympics gymnasts. Yeah, she used to train gymnasts, and so she told me this, because I was telling her, I don't know why I'm feeling this way. It's really hard on me. She's like, oh, it's the same feeling that we get when we do the Olympics. It's like you work so hard till the point, you get it, and then you okay, there's nothing left for me. So for me, now what I learned is I need to set my next goal, because then I'm working for the next goal and the next goal and the next goal. So I always am trying to climb something, do something. So I have a goal, to get to. So I'm never bored. I'm always busy planning for the next thing.
That makes so much sense. It's totally the opposite of obviously what I thought you would feel like, but that makes total sense, that after you put all of your energy and effort, that you feel that loss when you come home.
Yeah, each climb takes so much effort, right? I mean, with the work, if it's okay if it's your full-time job, and if you're guide, that's your job. But that's not my job. I have a professional job, right? I have to take care of my work and then come back in the evening, because I actually drive about 170 miles a day to get to work. And I make priority to go get an exercise at least an hour and a half every day. I can tell, most people say, hey, you know what, I don't have time. But that's not how it works, because I know if I show up, I'm not going to be strong. So it's like getting there, getting your work done, and then, it kind of gives you both the satisfaction and also makes you feel good. Side effects, I call it.
Very good. Anything else that we didn't cover today that you think our audience would like to hear?
Oh, I think we kind of hit it all, and hopefully this is a different perspective from a non-athletic person. I call myself a non-athletic person because I'm not I haven't won medals for any of the things that I've done. All we've done is simple things that every human being can do. So I think my message is like, well, if I can do it, you can do it.
And that's a powerful message. Well, I hope that you ladies will keep us in the loop as you go on to your future climbs, especially Everest, and just let us know how it goes.
All right. Thank you very much, Dee.
Thank you so much. Thank you for listening to the Champions of Active Women podcast. This podcast is brought to you by the Active Women's Health Initiative and was produced by the Faculty Media Depot at the University of Kentucky. If you enjoyed this episode, you can listen and subscribe to all of our episodes wherever you find your podcasts. For up-to-date information about the Active Women's Health Initiative, you can find us on social media at UKAWHI. Thank you for supporting us as we work to promote health and physical activity among girls and women across the lifespan.